It's early March, so that means time to take a look at the pickups from February of 2024. First up out of the Americas are two pieces, one from the United States and the other from Uruguay. The US piece on the left is a top to one of the 4 experimental sets issued to a handful of sailors when testing out a new uniform cut in camouflage pattern in the early 2000s. Known as a task force uniform, these were also identified as Navy working uniforms but had A through D to denote the experimental version. This one is D, a digital pattern, which looks like the adopted version, but if you look a little bit longer you'll see that it's more gray dominant rather than blue, which was the one they ultimately selected, leading to the well-known blueberries. With this piece, 1 1/2 uniforms are all that's left to complete the collection. Next to it is a short-sleeve top bearing another US pattern, UCP, or at least a close copy of it. These pieces have been seen worn by the Republican Guard alongside another digital pattern which is a bit more temperate in color. Seeing and collecting all the variants and instances of UCP by other countries is a bit of fun as it's considered a horrible pattern, but that just makes it a bit more endearing. Moving on though is this rather peculiar pattern out of Laos, worn by certain police units. The pattern is pretty stark, seeing more rusty colors, and though it may not pick up that well on camera, the black splotches are actually a very dark blue, making it all that much more unique and fun to look at. And finally, moving west from Laos, we come into Myanmar with these 3 sets, all of which are actually ones worn by members of various armies and rebel groups. Being that Myanmar neighbors China, a lot of their uniforms and gear is actually sourced from Chinese factories and companies. Being that they often print and manufacture camouflage and uniforms for not only the PLA but various other countries, be they regional or abroad, many components and patterns have made their way into the hands of these groups. These 3 pieces are good examples. On the left is a set worn by the National Democratic Alliance Army, which utilizes Singapore's current army pixelized camouflage. In the middle is a set from the Myanmar National Democratic Alliance Army, and on the right is a uniform from the Arakan Army, which uses an older Chinese People's Armed Police pattern. These 3 just scratch the surface, as with the 2020 coup d'etat leading to a military junta throwing fuel on the fire of the decades-long internal conflict, all sorts of uniforms and camouflages have popped up, with some being heavily used and others only seen in small quantities. With that though, February's in the books. As always, we'll be back next month. See you all then.